I'm the Global Manager Special Projects for LNG and LNG as fuel, and with wide involvement for LNG bunkering operations. So you can gather I'm an LNG man. The intention of today's presentation is literally, it's such a big subject, but is literally to touch on various aspects for both the LNG fuel market, the port LNG bunkering operations, LNG bunkering vessels, size, market orders, and also give you an overall idea of what the LNG bunkering process entails, and finish with some conclusions. Well, I don't need to push on that, but it's very, very clear that the gas will be the second source of energy globally by 2025. We are actually looking at a market which is very much based in liquefaction capacity. And that liquefaction capacity is presenting us with an increase of about plus 35%. So we're reaching about 400 million tons per annum. There are market reasons behind it, but there's a lot of technology reasons behind it which are actually hidden to the people who don't realize. First of all, the European market's demand for gas is higher from what they're actually getting from gas pipelines. This is clear in Southeast Mediterranean countries and clear actually in Central Europe as well. The other most important reason that is all of a sudden we have a big market pusher, which is US, with exporting, creating LNG terminals and exporting LNG to Europe. The relationship of USA and China is not at its best, so we really think that most of this gas will be absorbed by the European markets. The technology issues behind it, it's for us that we've been involved with gas technology from the early 2000s is very, very simple. Two are the main reasons. One is regasification. The technology of floating storage regasification units, which is nothing else but simple ships, and they can create a terminal within 24 to 2 years from first gas. This brings the ability to LNG to easy markets. The second most important issue is also that there is another market which is evolving very, very quickly, and that market is LNG as fuel and the capacity of ships to actually receive LNG, be able to use it, part as fueling, and also the capacity of ports to provide this new fuel. So if you look at the graphs, what is very, very important to see is that this is the existing market. And the existing market, one would say, okay, it's very much based in dual fuel vessels. I haven't seen any important rise, 1% of the existing market in the actual carriers. I would say that's substantial. But if we compare these to the new order books, you could actually see massive difference. Literally, we're looking at the whole of the new cruise passenger vessel market is dominated by dual fuel vessels with LNG as fuel. The whole of the offshore service vessels is dominated of the LNG as fuel vessel. Large portion of supporting vessels in ports and terminals are all LNG fuels. And now, emerging strongly, the gas carrier market also. Bulk carrier is very low. We've done a forecasting analysis in Port of Vancouver 5 years ago. Port of Vancouver, one of the biggest bulk carriers sort of ports in the world. Bulk carriers owners were not ready to play because the market was very low. In the contrary, we found out that the ICA route from Vancouver to Alaska, that's the one that literally required all the vessels to navigate with LNG as fuel. So there are particular routes that are extremely important. And it's also extremely important to do correct forecasting studies to look at what are the global ports that they are ready to offer an LNG bunkering facility. This is just a little bit of a feeling of where we are today. But if you look at Norway as a typical example, there is not any major global port there. So some of the Norwegian facilities are very much based on smaller terminals, supporting smaller ports. If you look at South Korea, another big player in actually container ship market, is now emerging the new container ship port in Korea. It's actually emerging to be an LNG bunkering port because it's supported by an LNG store, huge LNG storage facility on the side. I've just evaluated that. Other places, Netherlands, very much there. Emerging markets in Italy. I'm not mentioning Spain because Spain is the only LNG market, actually fully LNG-related market in Europe. And other players as well. Italy goes along with Greece. They have Poseidon Med, a very huge project who actually it lines up the fast ferry services on LNG between the two countries. 150 ports worldwide, they are ready to offer LNG bunkering services. The three services currently that we consider are ship-to-ship, very normal service, like any other MGO fuel in port. Truck-to-ship, this relates obviously of bringing trucks into the area of the port, more restricted, and obviously far reduced fuel capacity. We're talking this service as the fast ferry vessels. And pipeline to ship, which is very much related to the ability of the port to have a storage facility. Not all ports in Europe actually are able to do that. Barcelona is the only one. And provide bunkering via pipelines. The most important part of the LNG fueling, it's the provision of LNG bunkering vessels. It's important to understand that due to the volume and capacity expansion of auxiliary LNG, we are talking here for larger vessels than the normal MGO bunkers. Also, it is important to understand that ports don't have the ability to be near an LNG terminal, to be near the provider. So they will require a vessel with a capacity able to provide LNG bunker, potentially to 2 or 3 different clients. So the dominant size for this market is around 6,000 to 7,000 cubic meter LNG storage. We're talking about a ship of 120 meters on average. And that is where the market is currently based. Very much Korean-oriented market, very much based on type C type of tanks currently because they're easier actually to build and outside Korea as well. But if you look at the important factors here, is not really the LNG capacity of the bunker. It's really the LNG fuel requirements of the particular type of ship. And that's where I see every day, because I do this, the forecasting issue of ports. Ports are very difficult, actually, to forecast how the market will be, because they don't have only to look at the particular in-port client market. They have to look at passing ships market. The issue is to capture the clients, to capture the market. The issue is to become a key port in order for services to be coming there for refueling or to be ending there for refueling. And that's quite a difficult forecasting thing to do. But it gives you sort of, a general issues of development in the market and a requirement of approximately about 3 million, I would say currently, LNG capacity for round trips for the current fleet. One issue that I see every day is that ports and operators, they want to bring a LNG, bring a client, bring a LNG receiving vessel, and tell him to go to a specific berth or to a specific area in the port in order to be LNG bunker. This is not commercially correct, not even technology correct. LNG bunkering is nothing else than any other form of bunkering ship to ship. In this way, the LNG bunker ship goes alongside a vessel and provides connection with a specific system, with specific operations that you see here, which are very well defined, okay, to include obviously pre-cooling, ESD testing, and then obviously normal cargo fuel passing, and then disconnection. And this type of operation is an issue because A, the market doesn't really have so many experienced service providers, okay? Service providing personnel lacks the LNG experience. B, also the ports don't have the experience to provide correct license or correct auditing to these facilities. So we find ourselves in continuous effort trying to educate both service provider and both ports into the operating procedures, manuals, checklists that they have actually to do. The other issue is a legal issue. The way that a new fuel is introduced from country to country varies from the legislation point of view. To say that I have regulations or international regulations is one thing, but legislation is the law of the country. So we have various differences. A typical example, let me give you one. Spain has an overall port authority, and that port authority actually is the one who defines licensing of every single port regarding bunkering. Also defines operation levels, audit levels, etc. Other countries don't. Italy and Greece, as a typical example, don't have this. Coast Guard is actually responsible for this. Or the Ministries of Merchant Marines are responsible for this. The port is not. So there is a direct diversion here of the way operations should be conducted in order to comply with regulations. A little bit of the issue of methane and the issue of LNG. Obviously, we have a lot giving us issues for scrubbers. Every new fuel, of course, has got certain issues. Why LNG is successful is simply because the ship owners market knows LNG. People who make the decision for this type of investment and for new construction investment are those that they feel confident with LNG because it's out, it's been operating for a long, long time, it's got a very high safety record. It doesn't, however, mean that LNG fulfills the overall range of requirements, and it might not be able to fulfill certain requirements of CO2, as you know. One of the issues that I have, of course, is the question that methane slip. Do I have it? Yes, I do have it. I have it in diesel dual fuel engines, a typical example. I don't have it extremely in the new ways of doing propulsion, dual fuel, which is a very high pressure system, the mega systems or the turbine systems. But in reality, the key that I see always, the key that I see always is this. Even if we take account of the CO2 emissions, we should understand that going back from coal or going back from HFO, we're really winning about 50% in reduction, or 33% if we're actually providing this in heat. So the reduction is huge. Will there be more fuels? Of course there are going to be more fuels. Will it take a long time? Well, let me give an example. Wallenius Marine did a conversion of utility fuel 10 years ago in his car carrier. I've done this, and it was methanol. 10 years now, one of the easiest fuels to pick up, methanol, has never actually picked up. Why? Because the market, the ship owner market, is not really aware of methanol. It's not something that they've been using. It's not something that has been around. So this is the issue here. What fuels might become? Oh, well, we heard a lot about the e-fuels. We heard about ammonia, and we heard about hydrogen. The ability to be adopted should be a technical issue first. How wide is my ability to have tanks? Whether this tank size or type will affect my cargo capacity, hence my commercial requirements. My time is up. Excellent. That's it. I don't have anything else, so we've done it. Thank you very much.